You're listening to Fusion Patrol, a listener-supported podcast. Each week, we take a single episode of a science fiction TV series, movie, or audio and overanalyze it to within an inch of its life. Welcome to the discussion. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fusion Patrol. I'm Eugene.
And I'm Simon.
And tonight we are looking at episode 6 of the second season of Real Humans, the episode entitled Episode 6. Synopsis, once again, in various subtales. Starting with Rick's Revolution. Rick is up to no good. At night, he sneaks out of the holding pen at Hub Battleland and steals a gun, tricking Odie along the way. He thinks of the humans, and Roger in particular, as invaders, and he's not having it. The next day, during a Hub battle, he organizes the other Hubots, and they hide from their oppressors. He disables the pain modules attached to the other Hubots, and when the invaders find them, he scares them off with the real gun. The Hub Battleland clients aren't pleased with their experience, and Silas refunds their money, but he doesn't believe that they had a real gun. Later, Roger, searching for the missing Hubots, finds spent bullet casings, and they realize Rick really has stolen a gun. Kevin's Tale of Woe. Therese is leaving the country in just a few days and wants Kevin to go along. She has learned from Roger that Kevin has gone to Real Humans kitty camp, and, in a fit of anger, she and her Hubot boy toy Liam go to camp to get him. This does not go well, and she embarrasses him in front of his friends. He tells her he never wants to see her again, and then, in a moment of emotional despair, he spills his guts to the other Real Human kitties about how she left his father for a Hubot and how they destroy lives, and he wants them all destroyed. Their applause signifies that Kevin has just become their rallying point. Leonard's big adventure. Mostly at the urging of Matilda, Toby is convinced to attempt to try the code to unlock Hubots. First, they enlist Betty's help, and then they take Leonard, who had previously been deactivated because he was behaving erratically, which, I'll add, was because he has the Hubot virus, which the Angbans have a scanner for, but they never bothered to check him, and take him to Einar's, where they attempt to load the code to him. In seeming pain, he goes berserk and runs into the streets, where he is picked up by Hubsec. As Toby, Matilda, and Betty chase after Leonard, Einar steals the code. Toby and Matilda must face the music by telling their parents where Leonard is, although they certainly don't tell them that they were trying the free Hubot code on him. Gordon gets radical. Bea's implantation of the Child of David mantra nonsense in Gordon is causing his religiosity to become a radical agenda. He spied a man renting a sex Hubot, and he holds him at knife point, possibly killing him, while he orders the sex Hubot to escape. Gordon runs off. He talks about how Hubots own humans, how they are the real people, and how humans are fake, and he tells himself that we will rule them all and never die. Later, in the guise of a flower delivery man, he obtains Douglas and Florentine's address. Flash gets a baby. Florentine is obsessed with having a baby to care for, and Douglas relents. He agrees to start adoption proceedings. Flo is overjoyed, but that is short-lived. The adoption agency seems largely geared towards placing prospective parents with a Bambatronic Hubot baby, which Flo outright rejects. She wants a real baby. The adoption official says they do real babies too, but as newlyweds, they're not candidates for adoption, unless they've been together for a much longer time. Douglas lies and assures her that they've been together for years. Well, if that's the case, it takes 36 months to adopt a baby. Flo is outraged. We've got a lot of money. Surely that makes us suitable to have a baby. This makes the adoption official uncomfortable, and Douglas backs her off her tirade. Later, after the meeting has concluded, Douglas tries to put a positive spin on it. We get 3 years to enjoy being together without being tied down to a child. This does not go down with Flo's maternal programming, and she decides to walk home and think. On the way, she enters a hotel where she hears a baby crying. In a room, a young mother has just sold her body for a fix of heroin, and as she descends into blissful drug state, the baby, ignored, screams for attention. Flo takes the baby. Jonas meets Bea. Bea and Colette have been overpowered and turned off by Nishka. She immobilizes Bea and reactivates her, asking why she wants the brain. Bea says she wants to be reunited with her husband and tries to cut a deal with her. She knows Jonas wants the brain, and she argues it's useless without the body, which she has hidden. If they work together, they can both get what they want. Nishka turns her back off. Jonas, back in Hub Battleland, stops to talk with his clone. He explains to him that soon he will be free, and that Jonas will be inside of him. They will be one, which really doesn't sound like being free to me, more like being erased and replaced. He mentions his mother, Nishka, but the clone is programmed to hate his mother just as much as Jonas does and wants nothing to do with her. Jonas explains, I need her today because she has what I need, but after that, you'll never have to see her again. Clearly, Jonas hasn't let go of his anger either. At Nishka's, she explains that he needs the body, and Bea knows where it is. He inspects Bea and finds her serial number, and since Nishka owns David's company, she can get the immobilizer codes. This will give them the hardware access to immobilize Bea if needed. Having gotten the code, he uses it on Bea, then reactivates her. He explains if Nishka doesn't use a thumbprint device on her in 12 hours, she will automatically be immobilized, unless she agrees to help him. She tries to negotiate a deal where she gets her freedom, and Jonas doesn't really agree, but he says what happens next depends on how cooperative you are. They leave together. On a ruse, Bea goes back into the house and takes Nishka's thumb, and presumably kills her, and returns to Jonas's car. They leave to get the body. And finally, Mimi does drive maintenance. Mimi needs to defrag her hard drive, and sleeps for the episode. The end. Okay. She must have had the week off. That was, the Doctor Who thing where you get the week off and they just put you in a cell or something.
Yeah, the Mimi Light episode. What I particularly love about this, sudden reveal that she needs to defragment herself periodically is the fact that presumably she must be running on fat 32 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, surely most I'm thinking HFS, APFS, even NTFS, they're all like ZFS, they're all basically they don't need any defragmenting at all these modern file systems. So I guess this is almost 15 years ago, but it still seems funny.
It's funny, but there's something worse to me. I mean, I have a note here about that too, where it's like in italics with question marks and exclamations, like they have defraggable hard drives in them, but it's not because it's a defraggable hard drive. It's because Gordon is wrong. They are not going to live forever. Not with hard drives in them. Right? That's their point of failure right there. Finally figured it out. This is what's going to bring them down. Their hard drives. Now, if they'd been made 10 years later, we might do better, but nope, they're done. It's all over. Yeah. I'm going to say that I'm not finding season 2 as entertaining or as thought-provoking as season 1. And because part of what I thought was interesting about season 1 was, all the ethical implications and whatnot brought up. But that's because you looked at the Hubots and you could say, can't you see that these people are people, right? They are sympathetically capable of being us, and they are being exploited and used, and at least some of them. right? And so my actual sympathies are with them, but they are systematically ruining that in season 2, right? I don't like any of them at this point, except Mimi's kind of okay, but Bea, Gordon, Flash, they're all really off the deep end and have become villains in these stories. And I think that detracts from what this show was doing so well in the first season. Much more ambiguous as to what.
Yes, I hadn't thought about that, but I do think you've got a point. I think that what this season is trying to do is kind of draw a finer distinction or play around more with the kind of nuances around what the kind of distinction around personhood actually is, by setting up the situation with Jonas's backup as distinct from Leonard's backup, or the kind of whatever Bea actually is, and that there are these different levels of autonomy and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I find some of it as compelling, just because it muddies the waters a little bit, because you're trying to work out how this actually works in practice. It feels a little bit convoluted in some cases, particularly, as we've commented on a number of times, the whole sort of child of David thing. And also the Hubot virus, which, has got introduced in the early episodes and then has been around in the background, but we haven't really learned or understood anything more about that. So I think when you bring that together with what you're saying, which is the kind of lack of any real sympathetic Hubot protagonist, I do see where you're coming from. I mean,
Or human.
yeah, I guess. I mean, in a sense, that is kind of the point. But then, did we ever have the really sympathetic humans?
I thought,
Asa,
wow,
I suppose.
what the heck is Mrs. Engman's name? Inger. There we go.
Inga, yeah.
She was kind of sympathetic in the first season because she had a journey where she started off in the Hubot skeptic and became a champion for their rights. So she had a little bit of a trajectory there that was sympathetic and beneficial. But yeah, kind of she's just taking a back seat this season to kind of standing there and watch Mimi do her thing.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, it's the kids, and I think Matilda's character has grown and become more interesting. I think there's a journey going on there. Toby, obviously, there is a continuous arc for him that follows on from where things were in season 1. Hans, I have absolutely no idea. We still don't know what happened with his job. He just seems to spend his time hanging around at home and not shaving.
Yeah. I'm definitely not. I'm not getting the why anything out of most of these people. I'm just not. It seemed muddied. Muddied was a good word for it. I'm going to ask you a question that I have elsewhere in my notes, but since you said something that made me think maybe you had the same question. Is Bea actually a clone of David's wife, or just looks like her?
I don't know. I can't understand. All we know is that she looks like her. That's the kind of shock reveal in season 1, and everything. We don't know much about David's wife. We know about Bea is the character who we follow. We get the flashbacks. We see that he's married to someone who looks like her, but we don't know anything about her or what she wants or what she might try to achieve. And Bea herself has got this kind of zealotry, which is coupled with this kind of incredible self-discipline and capability that she's been able to kind of pursue this undercover infiltrating of the Hubot investigation branch, and that she's incredibly ruthless in everything she does. But we've no idea whether that comes from David's wife, because we don't know anything about David's wife or what she might want to do. But the question I would have would be, why has David created a clone, an image of his wife? Okay, not a clone, because we don't know whether that is her mind in there or not. But why has he created one in the image of his wife? Is it because he was planning to make a clone, but the technology wasn't there at that stage, or did something happen, or is she actually a clone? And is all of the stuff that we're seeing in Bea, this kind of this ideological ruthlessness, actually a product of who she was when she was human?
I don't know. She certainly was willing to jump on board when Nishka called her a clone of his wife. And, she says, I just want to be reunited with my husband. So, but that could be a lie. That could be a lie. But I will put one piece of supposition out there that I think does make an argument that she might be a clone of his wife. Okay? We roughly know what age David was when he died. Not David, his son, whose name eludes me. Leo.
Leo, yeah.
Right? We have an idea how old Leo was, roughly speaking. That's also roughly the same age that Nishka left Jonas's father. And Nishka is somehow the owner of David's company. And I think there's a very real hint that she's either was having an affair or then just subsequently paired up with David after Bea was dead, or whatever the case may be. I think that's implied in this triangle arrangement with Jonas's family. And I think that's fair. And I also think that even though they are definitely not the same actress, I think you can see that the casting, that the Nishka from season 1 was probably what she was supposed to look like when she was young.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Nishka was a copy, if not a clone of Nishka, probably a copy, and Bea blew her up real good, like a mad wife might. For no apparent reason. Because as far as I can tell, everything Nishka was trying to accomplish is exactly what Bea is trying to accomplish in this season.
Yeah.
Last year it was ambiguous. This year it's clear, no, that was what I wanted. I just don't want to do it with Nishka.
And the Hubot Nishka appeared to trust the Hubot Bea. I mean,
yeah,
she wasn't expecting what happened. Yeah, well, yeah, because yes, exactly. But then that works against the idea that they are clones.
Well, it works against the idea that Nishka is a clone. She's just maybe a copy. A physical copy. I don't know. But it keeps running through my mind. And of course, it also explains partially, you don't really need an explanation because it was telegraphed a mile in advance, why I think Bea killed Nishka at the end of this episode, too. I don't think she took her finger and then just tied her up. I think she killed her and took her finger. Because it would be a mistake to leave her alive. Tactical, logical mistake to leave her alive.
Possibly.
She's
I don't know.
Killing plenty of people.
She's been killing plenty of people, but I feel like I don't know how it's going to get resolved, but we need a Nishka to resolve all the questions that we've just been asking. Like, she's a character whose story is still in play, and killing her kind of it makes it very difficult to show what's going on unless it happens in flashback. So I don't know. I'm not saying that Bea doesn't intend to kill her. I'm not saying that Bea doesn't believe she's killed her. I'm just not sure that she has killed her.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, clearly Jonas is never going to go back and check on her unless he needs to. He's just using her too, so he'll never notice. If things go his way, especially since Bea's going to kill him.
Yeah,
she's gonna demobilize herself and then.
It was a good ending. Good ending to the episode. I thought it was. I'm, despite kind of echoing some of your complaints about this season, I am enjoying the show still. And one of the things I liked about the episode was that was quite a nice reveal, the way they showed what had happened there, and the fact that Jonas thinks he's one step ahead of Bea. And Bea has been on the back foot since the beginning of this season, but that's not the character we saw in season 1. And I think that we're getting a bit of the old Bea back. I certainly hope we are.
Yeah, I think so. But when she goes, "Oh, Colette has the key. I'll go back in and get it," and I'm like, "You got to be kidding, Jonas! Do not let her go back in. Do not let her go back in, or Nishka's dead." And my thought is, it's possible that she didn't kill her, that she tied her up in that same rug and thought, well, you'll never get out of this, so there's no way you could call Jonas and tell him, they stole my thumb or anything stupid like that. And I also think she probably plugged Colette back in so she'd charge. Oh, there was no power. Well, there was a battery or something. Anyway, they won't think about that. But yeah, I saw that and I'm like, oh yeah, she's dead. And I'm really surprised they didn't show her dead. I do like the way the reveal came when she came out. Yeah, I get your point.
I'm going to put that as another kind of argument in favor of she isn't dead, because they didn't show her dead. Like you say, you'd have expected maybe you might have expected it to be a little bit more definitive.
But it was even though I expected her to go in and do mischief, which she did, obviously, I do think it was a fantastic way of revealing that she did mischief without showing the body. Yeah. The bit with the thumb, it's like, okay. Although you would think that Jonas would be a little suspicious about why she's asking for a piece of paper, but like, sure, I got a piece of paper. What do you want it for? And blow my nose? I don't know. Yeah. Gonna write a note and throw it out the window asking for help. I've been kidnapped. What? Anyway, my first note here for this episode is Douglas survived another episode. I can't believe he's still alive. I mean, obviously he's about to get in a lot of trouble with the law very, very quickly. Good thing he's well connected to a high-priced law firm. Yeah. I don't think I saw kidnapping a baby on my list. I just thought we're going to explore Douglas is dead, and now his wife, his heir, is a Hubot. That would have been would be an interesting thing.
We went quite quickly through the Florentine looking at the baby videos and me thinking, well, how's that going to work? To, okay, it's all about adoption, to, that not working out, and her going and helping herself to a baby. So that moved quite fast. I do think we sort of glossed over the kind of I want a real baby bit, but I guess it sort of fits, doesn't it? It's why does she not see? Well, yeah, actually, the more I think about it, the more I think, how's that not going to work? That she's not going to see a Hubot as being, quotes, real, partly because she is totally buying into this extreme fantasy of wanting to be, in effect, human herself. That's why she's stepped away from the others. And as it occurs to me now, I don't really know how the Hubot babies work, because how do they grow up?
I have questions. Yeah. How do so There's a couple things, though. So you go in to adopt a baby, and I'm sure you've seen this on some sitcom or some show somewhere at some point in your life, maybe not, where in school classes in like health or something, they very sexist thing that they do. I've never seen it done in real life, but I've seen it many times on TV, where they give the girls in like health class an egg, an uncooked egg to take care of for days or whatever it is, to see if they can keep it from being cracked because, kids, right? If you can keep an egg from being cracked, you're
Then
suitable to be a mom. Yeah.
right.
So I could see how if you go into an adoption agency and there's a 36-month wait, I could see how they might place you with the Bambi bot, a Bambitron or whatever it was. And,
It
it's
sounds
like,
called something like Bambinotronics. I thought it was brilliant name.
yeah.
I think that's probably why I wasn't thinking about how it actually worked, because I was so taken by the name that it didn't occur to me to think about the process involved.
But then by the time the 36 months are up, if you've got this placement baby, they can run the logs back and find out if you've been beating the child, not feeding the child, doing, and then go, yeah, I don't think we're going to give you one. Have some practice. I can see that as actually being a valuable tool, but that didn't appear to be what was going on.
No.
And yeah, I'm going to get a baby. It's like, no, thank you. Part of, and to Flo's credit, I mean, part of having a child is seeing them grow up and
Yeah.
the development of them and going, and that's not going to happen with a Hubot baby or child. That is it's a child surrogate for people who don't want, I just can't even see it for somebody who is like a childless couple and was like, we just really want a baby. I mean, maybe, but
Well, it has to grow up in some way, and whether I mean, I don't see any
maybe you
sign,
bring it
because
back in every year for an upgrade.
well,
They've got the
every year
Bambitron upgrade
would seem to
program. Yeah.
be, yeah. No, I'm thinking of an upgrade program. I'm not sure every year would work, given how quickly children grow, but the 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 technology clearly isn't there for the Hubots to be able to simulate growth, and
Right.
we've seen that in the fact that the Bea and Nishka bots are as they were when they were copied, whatever it is, 15 more years ago.
Years ago.
And
Yeah.
so there's clearly something about the fact that Hubots don't age, and the whole point of children is that, yeah, as you say, they grow up, and that Flo is going to want the experience of that. So there would have to be some sort of upgrade program where, you take your baby in, the baby brain gets copied across into the body of the next baby up, and then, you take your baby away and live through the next stage for a month or two.
Yeah. See, I mean, I could see how this would be like on their birthday from a marketing standpoint, from you're leasing this for starters.
Yeah.
You're leasing that Bambitron. And even though it's not totally realistic, because it isn't totally realistic, but at least when they get a little bit bigger, every year on their birthday, you go down, you have a party. Maybe Bambitronics actually has like one of those kid friendly party centers. We have like Peter Piper Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese or something where they lay on a pizza party and you get all your friends down and you play arcade games and just sort of have an organized birthday party. So they do that for Bambitronic and all our Bambitronic friends from all the other people in the neighborhood, and then they slip them off into the back room for a few minutes, and the replacement model comes out with the brain transferred over, and everybody's like, "Woo! Happy birthday!" And then they sing a song, blow out the cake, and then don't eat the cake because they're they're babies, or they're Hubots, I should say. Let's see. I'm just gonna say I was talking about the sympathetic Hubots in season 1. I was never sympathetic to Rick. Rick was never a sympathetic Hubot, not once ever. And so I put that there, but apparently he's going to start an armed revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Hope they have his immobilizer code. I don't know that I like that. I don't like that development that they've just put on the Hubots, because why wouldn't you have it? If that makes sense. I mean, they bought the matron. Is it Vera? No, it's not Vera. It's
Oh, that is Vera.
that is Vera. Okay. Yeah. So the Angmans bought her legit, straight out, not a lease. We know that, bought her from a legitimate dealer, which Jonas was. And why wouldn't you have, well, I want the immobilizer code. Why wouldn't that be part of the package that you get? So the fact that we've never heard about it until now is kind of,
yeah, agree.
because Rick needs that. Rick really needs that right about now. They really need to shut him down.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I guess one of the questions I'd have about the immobilization would be, my immediate thought in Rick's case was maybe that was something that Leo removed when he tinkered with him. But then if Bea is this copy who is free and all this, and yet the immobilizer code is still supposed to work on her, I guess it's got to be kind of, it's got to be hard-coded in somehow.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that Jonas thinks that David left it in just in case. There was something about the way he phrased that. He left that in. So with that, we can take this one down since you own the company. But yeah. Anyway, I don't really have a lot to say about Rick. I mean, did he not shoot those guys in real life because that would cause a lot of trouble, or because he still has some Asimov rules in him? Because he's not as far along as Bea is, right? Leo did not have access to the make a Hubot really free code. He just was hacking it because he's really good. But
yeah.
So Rick is somewhere in between. He's on the spectrum. Although he sure is acting like he's completely free.
Well, but he doesn't have to be free to be homicidal.
No, but yeah. Didn't they have to trick him to be powered down, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So, I mean, he's not necessarily that he follows orders. So that is, to some degree, free. I mean, he's supposed to stay there in the stall until they call him. So,
well, they're not obeying. Well, he's not obeying their orders, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's free, because if his programming is that he is pursuing some particular agenda, that their orders don't.
So, I mean, he's somewhere on the spectrum. He doesn't just follow orders that he's given.
It's more the case that if they have to be programmed to follow orders. If the programming that Leo has given him now is not that he will just follow the orders of whoever his owner is, then when the Hub Battleland people give him orders that don't align with whatever he's doing, he's going to ignore them and do whatever he's doing instead, which, could be some homicidal agenda, but one that's been programmed in rather than one that he's chosen as a result of having been freed.
So, I mean, going back to season 1, we saw Leo upgrade 2 Hubots. I mean, it's implied that he did many more, but we saw that he did 2. He turned one female Hubot into something that was much more into BDSM, and we saw that she killed her human.
Which we don't know whether he did whether that was as a result of him deliberately programming her to do that, or whether that was as a result of
Just a
removing
little too
inhibitions, or just
rambunctious. Yeah.
or a bug that, was a result of him tinkering with the code.
So, but she was doing what it was that the guy asked for.
Yeah.
Right? He programmed to do this. In season 1, Rick was doing what Therese asked for.
Yep.
Right? He was a piston boy, and he was like, and that's what he wanted to do, and that's where he kept going on and going out to do, and to find more people, and to get into the porn industry and whatnot. In this season, he isn't really doing that. It's like he's got a new agenda. So that's where I'm on. It's like what he seems to want to be doing has changed. And that leads me to believe that he is sort of guiding his own objectives, which is on the spectrum to free. And that's where I'm getting. But yeah, I take your point. I don't know and Leo may have programmed him to ultimately just try to start a revolution. Just like maybe, eventually I want you to kill humans. It's like, kill them. Just like he did the sex bot. It's possible that he just did that to both of them. But so Kevin, good old little Kevin. I don't really care about this plot line, I have to say. So he's gone to camp. We know he took the money from Therese under false pretenses. Therese said she was going to the Netherlands earlier, but now it's apparently speeded up. And so I don't get how she does not understand that maybe Liam going along is not the right answer for this, because she knows Kevin does not like this aspect of her sexuality.
I think maybe Therese's kind of primary attribute hasn't been self-awareness throughout.
It hasn't been intelligence. Yes, that one is definitely true. So anyway, he's gone to the camp, and Roger knew. I mean, he'd asked Roger for money. Roger said, "I don't have the money," and then now he's got it. I kind of thought that Roger was opposed to the idea, but he was using "I don't have any money" as an excuse, a legitimate excuse, but an excuse. And then Kevin comes up and says, "I'm going to the camp and I got the money," and he's like, "I still don't want you to go." We never saw that conversation. We just know that he is now at Real Humans Kitty Camp, and and we heard her name called, Ava. So this is definitely Asa's former partner.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I was sure it was, but they hadn't called her by name yet, as far as I know, and they did in this episode anyway. So they're doing their little discussion about how to drive wedges between the other people, and in a way, okay, I can see the tactics and it has its interest to it, but I do not care to watch a bunch of smug teenage. I can't even use the word on the podcast without bleeping it. But that part of it.
I'm a bit
you like politics
fascinated
more.
by. Well, yeah, exactly, and the way it, because it is well drawn. It does reflect the way people approach these things, and the kind of, there's a mix in there of kind of cynicism and tactical approaches, and
I don't disagree.
Wedge issues have been very important amongst the kind of polarizing wings of modern politics. I mean, well, not just modern politics. They've just been deployed much more successfully recently, I think. And I do find it interesting that we discover it through this, that the Netherlands is supposed to be more liberal about Hubots, because I suddenly kind of felt like a bit of a jolt to realize that there were Hubots outside Sweden. It sort of feels like this, the whole story is so focused on Sweden and the rules in Sweden and the kind of social impacts as they affect this society, that we haven't really thought about, whether there are Hubots in are there Hubots in London? Are there Hubots in New York? Are there Hubots in Paris? And
I'll argue that the clues were there because the magazines were from other countries about Hubots, the sex magazines about Hubots.
mm-hmm.
They specifically said that, these were published where it's more liberal about these things. And
Amsterdam.
the guy who claims to have transferred his personality, remember the guy who shot the YouTube video and then shot himself as he was transferring her personality to the Hubot, that Jonas, it was an American. He was in America.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the difference is that this is the kind of first explicit reference to the kind of government and another government and the regulation of Hubots and how that differs, because it didn't necessarily feel the same to think about an individual American having a Hubot, or even having a company that was, a foreign company but specializing in sex Hubots or whatever. But there were different regimes around the world that would have different attitudes. I mean, it fits with the themes of the show, because this isn't about the technology or the Hubots, really, is it? But I guess thinking about it in terms of the technology and the Hubots, I had kind of thought that there must be some sort of international agreement and broad alignment about this stuff. And this doesn't preclude that. It just suggests that there are some differences.
I'd be interested in knowing, is the Netherlands, when she says more liberal, is that they have human Hubot marriage, for example, because that, and then that gets into what happens if you want to go back to Sweden and visit. Do they recognize the international nature of you being married to a Hubot, or
the feeling I've had from all the way through season 1 and all of the stuff about human Hubot relationships or whatever is that you don't have other countries that you can point to that are very different I think allowing the marriages would suggest that that would be part of the debate when these things come up, but I don't know.
I'm going to say that, and my guess is this may very well be a difference of where we grew up, but this feels very, when the state that you say that I'm watching the show and it's all about Sweden and it's, just, you don't really think about it. It's like, welcome to American television, Simon. Our television never, we are the world. Our show is about this world, this country, these people, our habits, our norms, our, whatnot. And it's very rare that anything like that tries to stretch it so that it's like, well, it's very different in Australia. It's like, we just don't do it. And I think, one, it might be looked at as being American arrogance. It also might be looked at as being commercial pressures that say that doesn't sell. that doesn't get the story told in a short and economical way as possible. Because if you start having to explain how things are in other countries, so people's views differ, the characters' views might differ, then you have to explain those things to people who don't know. And that takes time. And
agree. But what has happened here is that we have actually started exploring what's different in other countries and how that has an effect. So, and I think, you're right that the kind of the very complete view of the world that is present in a lot of American culture is perhaps more extreme. I'm sure it's true in a lot of UK stuff. I think it's less true in European stuff, just because a lot of European countries are smaller. A lot of the borders are
more fluid.
Fluid, yes. That they have moved around over the years, and that they're also a lot more porous, and that it doesn't happen in the UK very much that someone will commute to work in France, for example. But it would not be unusual for people in parts of France to commute to work in Germany or Luxembourg or Belgium or what have you. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a Swedish TV show that was much more, that there was kind of much more awareness and consideration of what was going on in Norway or Denmark or wherever.
I do think it is the politics aspect of it can be interesting. It's just that I just really dislike these kids. And every time we see them, I just don't want them to be on the screen. But I do think it's interesting in this moment that I have it written down here as Kevin the Messiah. But, I think that moment where he breaks down and he bears his soul, I think that is the moment we're supposed to see where Kevin becomes the figurehead. Kevin is going to be the face of these kids from this point forward. And of course, that is totally going to get him in the pants of the rich guy's daughter that he's so hot on. He's there. He got there. Yeah.
Well,
that was
it's all part of the picture. But I also think that what's going on there is another aspect of the kind of momentum or the moments where these things catch.
Someone with a story comes forward.
Yes, exactly.
In a way.
So it moves the thing from knowing what a wedge issue is, from kind of workshopping tactics and using flip charts to plan how you're going to go around messaging stuff. And that, that's definitely a part of the picture, and it's all quite cynically presented in this. And I'm not saying a lot of it isn't very cynical in the way it's approached. But what you get with that speech that Kevin gives to everyone else is what happens when someone tells a story that resonates, that there is something important about the fact that is true, and that it's really why Kevin is angry, and that he in some ways may not even be aware of what is driving him, but now there's something there that goes beyond just the kind of the inside politics stuff, the playing the game, the being good at the messaging, and has moved to being able to cut through, being able to potentially reach people who wouldn't otherwise have been persuaded.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about it, and I'm sure this is totally, branding spin to try to wordsmith things so that you can get your maximum effect. But unfortunately, sometimes when you're wordsmithing something and you're just saying it wrong, it irritates the heck out of me. See, it's not the Hubot virus. We call it the Hubot Trojan virus. Trojans are not viruses. Those are two distinct class of things. It's like, it's not a Trojan virus. No, stop it. Shut up, Ava. It's like, I don't like your branding. I don't like the dumbing down of people because you're telling them things that aren't true. And I don't like it. Of course, I don't like these people, but it wouldn't matter who it was. It's like, yeah. Okay. Why does Einar steal the code?
I don't know what Einar's agenda is. So,
but it doesn't matter what his agenda was. He had to copy the code onto his computer to run it. He does not need that USB drive anymore.
Yes, I see what you mean. No idea.
It's like, but I'm not going to give him back. It's like, give it back. I got a continuous backup going. My computer's been backed up while you guys were out chasing Leonard. I've got it. I have the code. It's like, I don't need to. It was odd. He's just making them suspicious when he doesn't need to.
Well, but from a plot point of view, they need him too, I guess.
Unless he just does not want them to have it, that he wants to be in control of it. That is a possibility. Perhaps. I am the only source. We mentioned Mimi's defrag, but why? What? There had to be more to this than that. I mean, so we see Mimi come in, and she says, I get a defrag, turn off. Could somebody turn me on after dinner? And okay, let's accept that that's a real thing that we've never heard of before, but that Mimi needs a defrag. It's like, all right, if that's true, why did we waste our time on this? If it's not true, what was she doing? And so she had that thing in the package that was scanning stuff all over her arm, right where the logo is, the mark of David. Was she trying to remove it? Was that a bonding agent, and then she put the skin over the top of it? Or was that some sort of interface device that was... Oh, didn't they have to do something like that with Bea when they repaired her? Didn't she have to shut down for a while?
Yeah, but did she have something like a patch like that?
She had some of that. Yeah, because she was shot.
Yeah, but
they were doing
was
the
just
patch
repair.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Is this just
I'm
hiding
stretching.
then? Is this just to hide the mark?
I'm thinking that, the kissing Toby and the getting rid of the code, although why she would then give it to someone instead of destroying it, and then covering that up, I think this is her explicitly rejecting Children of David.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what Mimi is doing. I think she's like, I'm done with this. I don't want to have any part of it. I just want to live my life. And unlike, Gordon, who's decided to make it his religion. I'd
welcome that, but I'd welcome it. I would like it, but I didn't get that. One of my criticisms about the whole Children of David thing is that it's not clear how it works with Hubots who are supposed to be free and autonomous, and then to what extent can a code like that completely override their autonomy? To what extent could she actually rid herself of it, and how would that work if the thing is deliberately designed to be there regardless of what her wishes or views on it are? So I'm still feeling a bit puzzled about that.
Could we argue that maybe the ability of the Hubots to be free is more all-encompassing than David Escher thought? That maybe they do have the ability to have their own free will, despite the fact that he coded that into them. He also let them keep their immobilizer code too. So he did obviously have some concerns that he might need to shut this project down, but I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. When she was using the UV light thing on her, I'm like, is that supposed to be some sort of, Bluetooth interface that she's doing, turning on the defrag kind of thing? But in the end, I think I just came to the conclusion that it's just, that was the way you apply the patch and hide it. And I don't know. What I was saying, twisting that thought, was even though I don't like what's happening to all of the Hubots, I think the fact that we've seen Gordon go down, we've seen Flo go down the path of, I want to be a mom, I want to have a fairy tale princess life, kind of thing. And we've seen Gordon go down the path of religion, basically.
Uh-huh.
And he has now rejected his first religion, and he is turning Children of David into religion. So, I mean, of the characters that we have who would become the fanatical nut, for, having been given that, hey, don't forget, children of David, we live forever, we will rule. Okay, that's my, once he rejects the other religion, he's taken it. That's his personality is an inclination towards religiosity, and perhaps radical.
But I'm not
religiosity.
sure. I'm not sure I'm seeing it that clearly. That's plausible, but I don't know if that is intentional, because I feel like that could just be a Child of David thing that we are seeing there, and it's
I think it's how you implement it, right? I think you're given this code, and then
but I don't think that's necessarily the only possibility here, because we could be seeing something that, even if you're saying this is just kind of nudging Gordon to do something, but using impulses that were already there, there's the suggestion that actually he would have got there in the end, or possibly that he's basically, gone mad, and that could be as a result of the conflict that's going on here between the kind of free Gordon and the Child of David thing that's trying to override him.
Yeah. I mean, I the parallel I see is that if you had two people, just in the real world, and both of them decided to adopt an agenda on their own, not necessarily forced upon them, but, it's like the current leader of my country is terrible and he needs to be gone. And one of those people, based on their experience, their life, and their not, was going to go about, I'm going to get a grassroots movement going. I'm going to get people to vote. I'm going to sign up voters. We're going to take this to the ballot box, and we're going to get rid of this guy. And the other person, based on their personality, comes up with something more Lee Harvey Oswald.
How do we know?
Kind of what
How do we know? How do we know how the Child of David thing works? That
we don't.
It's a nudge thing rather than a program.
I don't know. I'm kind of seeing that they are dealing with it differently, although, we don't have that many left in operation. Well, and Mimi does not appear to be going along with it either.
Yeah,
but
which again,
I don't know.
Raises,
it's supposition. It raises questions, but that's kind of where my mind has put it. I now I'm completely out of sync on my notes here. You don't lie to the adoption people about how long you've been together, because they interview other people. Douglas is not going to be able to say, oh, we've been together for years, and then they're going to go talk to his dad, or they're going to talk to his friends or people who know him, and like, no, I never even met her before the day of the wedding. It's like, that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. Does Bea really need the body, or is that just BS to try to get some leverage?
So no.
Yeah, I am. It seems like I would like it to be just leverage, because then that would get us back to Bea as being clever.
Yeah.
As opposed to, just. And then I should say, so we have the scene where Gordon sees the sex Hubot being abused in his mind by a human, taken to the car for some business, and he hops in the car, puts a knife to the guy's throat, freeze the Hubot, sends her, get out of here, go, run, and she finally leaves. And then he slits the guy's throat. I don't know if that's Scandinavian TV, like, for I've slit your throat and we're not going to show a lot of blood or anything, or whether that's just he's,
scratched it,
scratched it across the. I'm not sure, because we never really see the guy after he leaps out of the car and runs. And
no, I mean, we get enough. We get enough that Gordon has obviously gone mad.
Yeah.
I like the craft with which it's done. Just the getting of the child seat out of the car and putting it in the boot.
Oh yeah,
it just reinforces the kind of sleaziness of this.
yes, that was. Although, well, yeah, car seat would have been in the back, but yeah, guess that's Anyway, the other thing that I thought of while I was doing the thing is just putting that is a parallel of what's he going to do to Douglas, right? That was, remember when he found Flo, he said, you don't belong with these people, you need to get away from them, and Flo rejected that outright. He's basically doing this is what I'm going to do to get Flo free of the human oppressor. And so then he goes to get the phone number for he doesn't ask for Douglas and Flo's address. He asks for Douglas's address, and he's going to go kill him, which I don't think he's going to make it, because I think Douglas has to die of his medical condition before Gordon gets there to kill him. Or I suppose maybe Gordon could get there and scare him, and he dies of his medical condition because of it.
No,
Douglas must die.
I think Douglas will die, but I think that Gordon killing him is too obvious. I'm not even sure it's going to be the medical condition. I think it might have to be some other third thing that we weren't expecting, because these others have now been
Flo
flagged.
does it because she's mad. Something to do with the electricity, the fuses. Remember the fuses in this episode that went out, and Flo went to fix them? I was like, what's up with that?
I have got a particular note on that, because it was like the fuse blows and Florentine says, oh, we use 32 amps. And I'm thinking, okay. And I wanted to ask you about this, because obviously you have form as an electrician, and I don't necessarily know anything about Swedish wiring, but 32 amps, like they've been pulling these plugs out from under their armpits that look like regular 2-pin European plugs that are rated 16 amps at the absolute most. So I don't know what's going on here, whether Swedish electrics are so radically different, or whether in this kind of a semi-futuristic or alternative reality in which the Hubots exist, that the Swedish wiring regulations have been completely overhauled. But that did surprise me, that it could be A, it could be 32 amps, and B, it still blows.
Well, I'm gonna say it doesn't sound right to me. So in the United States, which is single phase power, and I don't know about Sweden. I'm sure we could look it up real quick. But in the United States, circuits are either 15 amp or 20 for that type of plug. 20 would be for a kitchen.
Well, let's just factor into this when you're talking about the US.
But if you pull more than 20
Sweden
amps,
has 230 volts. So 20 amps at 230 volts is a hell of a lot of power.
It's definitely more than what we're pushing out at 20 amps. Yeah.
Anyway, this may be more detail than we're necessarily expected as casual viewers to be thinking about.
It might even get cut out. I don't know.
The wiring implications of Hubots in this show, but I did kind of raise an eyebrow at the figures that were being quoted, and I don't even understand why. Because if she'd said it's we use 15 amps and it trips, that would have made sense, and it wouldn't have made any difference to the plot. I did also appreciate the fact that it there's a reference in there to pulse width modulation, which again I probably don't know an awful lot about. Maybe in this context has to do with phasing, but the way okay, so we'll add a little to this electronics lesson here, in that I know this from model railways, that you I mean, these days model railways are all digitally controlled anyway, so this is slightly old-fashioned. But when everything was DC, you would vary the voltage going to the track, and that would be the voltage that would ultimately reach the motor and therefore define the speed of the train. But the problem with that was that you got quite a voltage drop, not necessarily in the track itself, but obviously in the wheels and the pickups on the wheels that would transmit the voltage from the track to the train. And actually, yes, probably in the track as well. And so a way of dealing with that would be you just supply like 15 volts, constant voltage into the track, but that you very quickly switch it on and off. And the amount of on as opposed to the amount of off is how you determine how fast the locomotive is going to move. So
I've never seen the name, but looking at it, I just looked up. It's like, yeah, this is how our dimmer switches work.
right, yeah,
For like,
that would make sense. And you switch it on and off so fast that in theory you don't notice it going on and off. It's not great for the motors in very old locomotives, but modern locomotives are designed to work with these sorts of controllers, and the benefit is you're always getting the 15 volts, and you vary the amount of time that you're getting the voltage for rather than the amount of voltage. I have no idea how that helps with Hubots. I just
well,
like
I
the
mean,
fact
so
that they mention it.
the other thing that I would, say is that, like I said, we have 15 amp circuits for most of your residential use, and we have 20 amp circuits in the kitchens, simply because, and of course, you have bigger wire because of that, and then the
Yeah, I mean, I guess
devices
that's like
that you
we have
have,
30 amps to our cookers.
they don't all draw 20 amps.
Sure.
All the devices you plug in don't draw 20 amps. So it's also possible that she was talking about the fact that she plugged in and the other things currently going drew 32 amps.
Yeah.
And that
Okay. Yeah.
popped the fuse.
Yeah. So yeah, a
I
ring main here would be 30 amps. That
so
still seems a lot of current to draw, though, to go over the 30 amps.
So,
But maybe
yeah.
we didn't notice that they had the heaters on. They were running the vacuum cleaner and boiling a
Well, it's the
kettle at the same
lights.
time she was charging.
Everything in the room went out except for her computer, which of course is on a battery. So that seems a little bit like, you took out everything. Normally you just take out a room or something, but yeah. So maybe it's just very bad wiring. Anyway, do we have any? See, but I want to know why they brought that up. That is Chekhov's fuse box, right? That feels to me like we've got to use that fuse box somehow. That information was not presented to us just because they wanted to induce a podcast conversation about Swedish voltage and amperage. There's a reason for that. Flo is going to get hurt on it while she's fixing it. Gordon's going to get hurt somehow. Douglas is going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get hurt from that power.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Douglas surprises us by not getting killed by Gordon or his health condition, just getting electrocuted.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. All right, listeners. How do you think Douglas is going to die? Let us know in the comments. Because he's going to die. I'm telling you. All right. Do you have anything else? I think I'm exhausted everything I have on this episode.
I don't have anything else, but I did just want to mention, because we haven't really talked about the Leonard plot line in this one, that I appreciated the fact that when they were all sitting around deciding who they were going to test out the free code on, and the kind of slate of hand there was going to be Mimi, and I'd forgotten about Leonard, and so the fact that Leonard's story takes its next step with him having the free code inserted on top of the virus, and also the possibilities of what that might do if Leonard is this kind of low fidelity copy based on a questionnaire rather than an actual brain scan. What effect it might have if he actually now does become a free Hubot, but with this lo-fi Leonard personality in him. So I appreciated that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that one goes.
Did you hear what he screamed in pain?
No.
Who am I, Leonard?
Oh, yes.
It was an odd phrase.
Yes.
It was an odd phrase, like I am Leonard, but who am I? Which is something you might think if you had a partial load.
Yeah,
load.
And the code has kind of opened up his full capacity, that all of the kind of processing power that may not have been used for the kind of application that he was running, it now goes well beyond what the kind of Leonard personality, the lo-fi Leonard personality, can fulfill. So if you had a kind of full-on clone, the kind that Jonas is trying to do, you would expect that the whole of the Hubot hardware would be occupied with running the personality of the person that's being cloned in. Whereas with Leonard, you've now got all of that Hubot hardware that but he's not a completely blank slate, or he's not a Hubot with a pre-existing personality that is now just being freed. He's a Hubot with this, as you say, kind of partial personality in him. What happens to the rest? What's all that space going to be filled with?
And the virus.
And the virus, indeed.
I cannot believe that with the Engmans having purchased a virus scanner and Leonard going wacko that they did not check him. And honestly, I can't believe Einar didn't check him before trying to load this up.
Yes, it does seem a bit negligent.
It is. And then while we're on the subject of the virus, we know what the virus is. We saw Toby's computer infecting the internet with it. It is the same code without the unlock key. Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why should it work at all? Why should it work as a virus at all?
And I don't know. I don't know why it should work at all. But now I do have an additional question, which is that if you have a Leonard type Hubot that is infected with the incomplete version of the code, which has these unfortunate side effects, you then overwrite that with the completed version of the code. Will you still have the same problems that the incomplete version of the code produced? Or now that you've got the complete version in there, is the kind of virus presentation just going to disappear?
I hope so, but that would be my first guess if it were in a computer situation, is if you're overwriting the same code with a complete code, you would overwrite it. But but then they called it a Hubot Trojan virus too. So
well, Ava did.
All right. I will say that's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Nope.
Simon, thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure, as always.
And listeners, I do hope you'll join us all again next time on Fusion Patrol. This has been Fusion Patrol. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, we hope you'll consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com/fusionpatrol or patreon.com/fusionpatrol. For our Patreon subscribers, we're currently running a special series on Babylon 5. Come join the conversation and find other content at fusionpatrol.com. You can contact us on social media, where our Fediverse address is @podcast@fusionpatrol.com or by email at feedback@fusionpatrol.com. Fight the Future by Amberwolf is our theme music. You can find more from Amberwolf at bandcamp.com. This has been a Lone Locust production.